Good morning or good afternoon for you where you are.
Good
Um,
afternoon.
yeah, yeah, exciting to be sitting with you again and sharing this space. I'm really, really happy that we're doing this. Um,
Same.
yeah, so so Manuel from Austria, or Manny, or everything is in the name in the language, as I think we're probably going to discover as we meander our way along. Um, Yeah, we connected a couple of weeks ago and did,
Yeah, three,
yeah,
4 weeks ago.
yeah. Oh, yeah, maybe it was a few more. And and explored this topic of syncretism and astrotheology, which is fascinating and infinite and endless. And yeah, I just absolutely adored how you embrace it and speak about it. So I'm really glad that we're gonna explore it some more together. Um, yeah.
Looks like the connection is a bit unstable sometimes.
Okay.
Just showed up on my screen and I couldn't hear you properly, but it's okay now.
Okay. So yeah. So syncretism and astrotheology, it's something that's fascinated me for a while, like you know, and I find it's something that's actually quite hard to talk about, probably because I don't know it like you do. And so when people are like, "What is it?" I just find myself, um, where do you start with that? To
Mm.
what is syncretism? What is astrotheology? What would you say to that?
Well, syncretism, it says it actually, it synchronizes or syncretizes things. Things that seem to be not connected, you can make the connection. It's like a universal basic pattern in which everything in this creation has its place. And once I find out how it all goes, I can start to discover the world more deeply, I'd say, in every aspect, literally.
Mm. Yeah, it's definitely a powerful tool and a tool I feel to almost like a lens that you can put and then
Exactly.
yeah, when you see through the lens and almost like you know
Mm-hmm.
those 3D goggles that without them
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make sense. It's red and blue and there's doubles of everything and then you put it on, you're like, oh, that's what it's about. I don't know, that's what's just come up
Exactly.
for me.
That's nicely put.
Mm.
It's like we have a word in German called Schablone. I don't know what's the meaning in English. It's like, let's say you have um, a thick paper and you cut out forms for whatever purpose you might need them. And with these forms, you can put them over another paper and the paper under it would make some sense kind of thing. Schablone, maybe I can find the word in the net.
German is that language that your words tend to get longer and longer and more specific and very, very. I mean, it's the reason why I suppose they call it the language of poetry.
Well, it's a very, very interesting language that I discovered only later in my life how magic it is,
Mm.
actually. So the word is template.
Ah, okay. A little bit like what's
It
behind you, actually.
Yeah, actually, that template behind me actually already encodes the numbers. It's a 6 pointed stars. So there we get 12 from, and from there we can go all over the place, actually. You find it everywhere once you see it,
Mm.
you know?
And what do you think? What's the magical aspect of German? I did German when I was at school. I suppose when you're at school, you're just like, oh, do I have to study this? But I did find it very. Um, I really liked the structure. Um, that yeah, there was a really strong, defined structure and lots of symmetry in the language, and But obviously, it's not my language like it is yours.
Mhm.
What would you say is?
Well, it's a bit hard to explain because actually, if you compare it to English, English is what you could call an anatomically correct language. You can really use it in the way you use Hebrew, for example, or Sanskrit to play with words and syllables. And German is already a bit away from that anatomical uh, correctness, or how can I say? Like many other languages are also, you cannot use them in the same way you can, for example, use English. But as you said, it's a poetic language, and also there is something about the German people, because if you think about it, the Germans were nature people until the Romans came, and they actually most of them refused the money system and the Roman system. So they had a hard fight going on, and Rome tried to extinguish them. And they have a very nice, they have nice old roots, these German people, and they have certain qualities to them. Um, but through history, through Rome and through the Second World War, Hitler, everything got kind of turned upside down, got lost, and is only to be found if you look deeply. We don't, yeah. And so in poetry, it mirrors this kind of beauty. But I guess I couldn't give a good example of it because it's a kind of complicated language in a way.
Do you see it? It's funny that we're talking about this, but do you see it connected to syncretism or astrotheology in some way?
Everything does.
Everything.
Yes, if you look closely to stuff, you will always be able to syncretize. That's what it means. It means I can really have a closer look to anything, and if I do it thoroughly enough, it will match up to the number. Like, let's say a planet has a certain frequency, a certain amount of rotation he does in his round around the sun, and the numbers, they go up to thousands or whatever. And if you do proper syncretism, which I'm not professional enough to do here because I'm actually just a beginner, even though I seem to know a lot, but it goes so deep, so you can go really mathematical and find out that the rotation of the planets would go along with the numbers of the elements on the elemental table, or the harmonies of the musical scale. Um, so it goes really deep. It can unlock stuff and understandings in your brain, like the story with the A and the B. It gets really clear how certain things are, and it's totally exciting. Like I would even have visions on the daimi connected to the astrotheology knowledge. So that's when it gets really deep, and I can see, okay, it all matches up eventually. And I think this is unifying in essence, the potential of astrotheology is to unify what is separated.
Hmm.
And there we talking about the A, the unification, like the letter A is unity that cannot be taken away. And that's what astrotheology and syncretism does. And astrotheology would mean astro means light, star. Theology means the word of God. Uh, so theology basically connected to the stars, explaining how the stars give the tone, how they kind of direct or are a mirror of the archetypes at play. And yeah, the story is written in the stars. The truth is in the stars. So there is a saying in the Bible when God says at one point, uh, do you know the cups of the bear? Do you know the handiwork of God? Because if not, you don't know God. And his handiwork is the sky, the stars, and the sun and the moon.
Mm. Yeah, in our modern culture, we've spoken about this, about horoscopes. I mean, even for me, I've always been fascinated by them. It's like, oh, what does, being Scorpio mean? Or, all the new moons and full moons and how the planets, you know, um, move in the various different signs. Um, but yeah, in our modern, especially Western, I suppose, culture, it's that last page in the magazine, tiny little paragraph, and quite very belittled, very simplified. So much so
It's
that
like a joke.
it's like a joke. It's been made of as a joke. It's like, oh, you don't believe in astrology. Oh, that's just
Exactly.
stories. But yeah, it's almost like we've been led astray so that we don't look to the stars. And not only, if you're in a city,
Exactly.
we're not going to be able to see all the stars like the our ancestors could see and could understand.
Well, people got burned for studying the stars and all this stuff, while the church, the Catholic Church, gets all his powers from the stars. That's the knowledge. That's what they are tuned into to a very deep level, further than the peasants. And so that's where their power lies, because that's the law. It's also law. We can talk about law, like I can't, because it's not really one of my favorite subjects, but anything in law has to do with it. The law of the land, the law of the sea, the it all comes from the stars, and they are doing things according to the stars. Like Catholic means all encompassing. So this church is a universal church, actually, even though you have to get baptized to get in, which makes it a sect. It makes it it a sect, because you have to be something in the first place. You cannot just be. So they integrate all the planets in there, and people don't really know what's going on. Even priests don't. I went to some priests and asked them some deeper questions, and none of them actually knows any astrological links to what's going on, even though they do their job in a house that's set up according to all this, you know,
What do you
and
mean?
they don't know it.
What do you mean they do
Well, if you,
in a house that's set up? As in a
well, they go in.
church?
Yeah, a church is a temple, and a temple is a kind of mirroring the human body, and the human body is a mirror of God or of the universe, because it's the same principles. So when you go to the end of the church, there is the holy tabernacle. It's gold. Nobody goes there. That's the top of the head, Aries. You also find the lamb sometimes there. The lamb, the lamp, the light. That's where that's the top bit, the holy part. Then comes the neck. That's where the priest stays and talks and breaks the bread. It's the neck is Taurus. It's where they, back in the days, cut the Taurus head to sacrifice. And it's where we still break the bread to sacrifice. Because after the neck, it goes down to the arms. So here you have the wings of the church. And then it goes down the body, and at the very end of the church where you enter is the feet. You will also always find water there, because feet is fish, Pisces is water, so you'll find that there. Aries is fire on the beginning, and within this form we can study syncretism now, because it's all it's all here. It's the Holy Land. It's Israel, Isis, Ra, and electricity, the child. Uh, you know,
So when we talk about temple, I remember seeing a meme about, so even the word temple, and then at least in English, this area, these are your temples. And I remember seeing a meme once that really kind of struck me. And you never, there's all sorts. We live in this age of information where what is real, what is not, is it an entanglement so it just leads us to confusion and to looking for external answers and explanations instead of looking within. But that this idea that the temples and then this magical area within us, in that God is within us, within we are, our body is the temple.
Like we could take a skull now, and there is a nice video of Santos Bonacci actually showing exactly that. He shows a skull, and the bones and everything, the anatomy of what's going on in the skull is like that is it. If you study it, you will find out that the names and the forms correspond uh, to they correspond to the most holy. I mean, I can't go into it now because I would have to prepare for this. Maybe I find a video that I can send you, but it is all an expression of absolute truth, and we find it here. And this here is the most holy. It's the dome. You can imagine you watch from beneath up to the roof of a skull. It's like the dome of the church. Uh, it is all an expression of the same thing. You could, for example, I'd have a chart where there is 360, the circle is split into 360 parts, and every part corresponds to certain star formation and to a specific anatomy of your body. So you can say on the minute, on the degree, you can actually find out, okay, that planet is on that degree, so therefore I'm prone to this or this disease. I checked it sometimes and it matched up every time. Like he would say migraine, and I asked the person and would confirm, yeah, migraine, I can have migraines. So you can get really deep into it.
This division in 360, is it unique for each person?
Is
Dependent,
it what?
is it unique for each person dependent on when you're born, like how the stars aligned when you were born and you entered this?
Yeah, it depends on what planet is on what degree, or yeah, degree, and then you can start finding out stuff. I can show you
Yeah.
the thing. Mm.
It's interesting. It divides up into 360, which obviously, you know, that in geometry. But the thing that came up for me is the year can be divided up into 12 months, but
Yes.
it's 365 days. And there's some, you know, how come it's 365? And there's all sorts of theories that you hear about how it should be
Mm-hmm.
360.
Well, the sun takes more than 360 days actually. So there was different systems in different cultures to deal with this difference. We have the extra day every 4 years. That equals that, but some like the Mayans, they would shift their New Year's Day
Mm.
all around the circle by a certain time.
And so they would keep it as 360 and just shift the new year.
Exactly.
Does that make a
Yeah.
difference? The fact that we have this system, in your opinion?
Yeah, the difference is the system applied to your psyche. It will make a difference in your reality. Totally. That's why they control time as well. They change time when they want, like they did with the Gregorian calendar. They actually, I mean, they have to go with truth, but they can harness it in their own way, you know. And we are running on the Phoenician system of 12 and 60. We have 60 seconds, 60 minutes, and 24 hours, which also makes six. It's like 666. We're in 666. It's that kind of thing. Just a second. Sharing. You see?
Yeah.
So, can you see that one?
Yes.
Well, you can see it's quite complicated. You can spend quite a bit of time with this board.
So this is the circle that's divided into 360.
Yeah, and they all correspond to certain anatomy and physical conditions.
And what's in the center?
In the center is the human body corresponding, starting here in Aries, as I said, the top of the head, the neck, then the two arms, that's Gemini. Then comes chest, Cancer, the heart, Leo, Virgo, gut, stomach, Libra, kidneys, what's an Scorpio, that's sexual organs. Then we have the upper legs, Sagittarius, the knees, Capricorn, and lower legs, Aquarius, and the feet, Pisces. So another chart may be a bit easier.
Yeah.
So you have correspondences here. There is each house has a rising sign, a detrimental sign, a ruling sign, a element, and a aggregate. Like an element can be either cardinal, fixed, or mutable. And well, that's the basic thing. And then you have like correspondences like geometries or chemical processes like ignition or nitrogen ignites, would be Aries, for example. You see it here.
Which then also corresponds to ignite as in fire. A fire ignites, and so
Yeah,
Venus is in fire and
ignite, exactly. Like Agnes,
Hmm.
Agnes means lamb. Agnes, ignite, lamb, lamp.
Hmm.
It all corresponds.
Hmm.
That be here, the lamp.
And
That's
are
he,
the,
yeah. No, say.
that's right.
Um. Oh, I lost it. Sorry.
What I was going to ask is, and so it's still in the Aries part. There's so in all of them though. There's an animal. Is that the Chinese?
It looks like actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, must be the Chinese exactly.
Yeah.
You mentioned the 12 months. There is also 13 months in a year, but we count only 12. You could ask why is that?
In what way are there 13 months?
Well, within a year, there is 13 full moons, not 12.
Right, because it's every four weeks.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it all makes sense in the end. You know, it just depends on how you choose to put your system on it. And we did it that way.
And so that looking at the Mayan system of shifting, and so keeping it more geometrically aligned, I guess, and mathematically aligned, um, that would that would make more sense than kind of just thinking, well, 12
I,
months.
I couldn't say if that makes more sense because I don't know. I haven't lived in this time there. I think they've been pretty much very good in tune with natural cycles because they based it. Yeah, it somehow I think they had two calendars actually. Actually, um, a cycle for growing farmers and a cycle for the states kind of thing. And with us, it's like this. We choose to have our new year down here every year when the sun is exactly at that point, like shortly after, actually. Um, like let's say that you see my cursor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The sun goes up in March, then it goes down. Here is September 21st, 23rd, and then it goes down. And here is Christmas. Here is actually the darkest day. Then we have 3 days sundown. That's the 3 days in the the 3 days we wait from Easter Friday to Easter Sunday. It's the 3 days that the pine Occhio was in the belly of the whale, like that's that part. And then come 1st of January. That January is that God that looks into both sides, isn't it? He looks back and forward. Janus, I think he's called. And it's also the day of circumcision. It's like when we cut off the old year. And what starts here is the secular year, the political year, because this year is the secular axis of our existence. We have the archetype of the king up here on the day of John the Baptist, which was Jesus' good friend and initiator. And down here, opposite, we have the archetype of the slave. Here we also find the house of Capricorn, where we can find Baphomet, and the devil or Satan or Lucifer has its place here. And then we go further up, and here is the actual spiritual new year, because here the sun rises from the eclipse. It's like it rises from the horizontal. It's like Jesus rising from the dead. It's the highest celebration of all cultures in the year, because we celebrate that life comes here in spring, life comes back. And this is the ecclesiastical line. So here we have the priest, 6 o'clock in the morning, 21st of March. And opposite, we have the judge, Libra, the scales. Here is law and the judge. So that makes the ecclesiastical axis. And that's how we choose to do it. I mean, I don't know exactly details that are behind the choices that the church made, but I know that the church has a very detailed overview of that, and they do things corresponding to that. Like, let's say, have you ever asked yourself why they would put purple cloths around their crosses before Easter?
No.
They do that. Did you know they do that?
I know
Yeah, they do.
purple
They
is an important color, but I don't know anything about that. No.
Well, they don't tell you in school what all this is about, but what happens is like this. Here starts creation, life, 21st. Here we have Carnival, and after Carnival, the meaty festival, where the festival of pleasures. We actually have that Ash Wednesday, where we put ash on our forehead, because ash is purity. So now we go into a diet, like we restrain from food. So we get pure to prepare for God to come into creation, for the most holy. That is on the back of the church, the high altar, where nobody goes, only to take the monstrance. And so they cover everything with purple, because the color above this place is purple and it's invisible. So they have these things going on. There is many examples, and not even the priest exactly knows what they are doing. So we are a half initiated society. Even our priests are not initiated. So where are we supposed to be with our consciousness? Imagine a Lakota tribe, and the initiators of the young people would say, oh, let's just show them half the truth so we can keep the power for ourselves. That'd not be a nice Lakota tribe, is it?
So just to clarify on the purple, so the crown chakra is purple.
Yeah, above the crown chakra, we're supposed to be invisible purple, yeah.
And because
crown chakra actually is white, isn't it? But it will always be purple up, even further up above white. There is purple. It's infrared. It's ultraviolet. It just belongs there.
And so, why do they make themselves invisible?
Yeah, because well, for me, syncretizing it to my knowledge, purple can be a kind of invisible frequency. It's actually above the creation, before creation starts. It's purity, absolute purity. That's what the color symbolizes as well. And for example, with UV light, you can kill bacteria.
Mm.
So because of that nature of the color, I guess that sounds like a reason to actually cover the crosses, because we are not yet, it cannot be yet seen. Only once we are here things start getting into the light of the fire.
So to correspond to also putting the ash and the diet, the fasting with the purple, we then reach the pure state ready for
Exactly.
him to begin again. So it's interesting talking about that 21st of March. We know it as the start of spring, but in the Persian culture, Nowruz is the Persian New Year, which is the 20th, 21st. So from the 20th into the 21st of March. And they have a lot of, I don't know if you know anything about it, but I went to one celebration once, and um, and it was fascinating because they've got all of these different uh, rituals, and like in the same way that we would do around Christmas, and we kind of do these things without even thinking about it. But it does make, as I go through life and kind of learning more about astrology, and even just learning more about the natural world, and realizing why on earth are we celebrating the start of the year, January, the coldest, most miserable time, and that, from January to December, which doesn't correspond to astrology, and Aries being the start of it, which is becoming, at least to me, more apparent just from looking at it and trying to understand this. And so, yeah, you've got the Persian New Year, which corresponds perfectly to it.
They call it also Nisan. Have you heard of this
No,
name?
no.
Nisan. I think the Hebrews call it Nisan. And you know the car brand Nisan?
Yeah, Nissan.
Their logo is a circle with an equator. It exactly points to that area here. It's a circle with an ecclesiastical axis. So you find this truth all over the place in like common brands.
Mm.
They are all over the place because they are initiated in that stuff, and they use their knowledge for their logos. And that makes them also quite powerful because it's always truth in their logos.
In what way does that make? And so, two questions come to mind. Um, One, who is they? And two, what is the power in using this symbology, in your opinion?
They are the ones that know this stuff, that like Freemasons or God knows what kind of groups know about it. But once you know this stuff, and once you can see the symbology and read the symbology, you start seeing this stuff is all over the place. Like I was in Brazil, and I could tell you by the symbols that the car sellers, they were all hanging together Masons, because they all had the kind of, and then I just saw it because I don't even remember what kind of symbols they were, but I just remember, like symbols talk for themselves. There is I don't know about the background exactly,
Mm.
but like, let's say I mentioned Red Bull, the Taurus. Can you hear me? Did you
Yeah, it
hear
all
that?
froze, but can't see your screen anymore, as in the
Ah,
image.
okay, but you heard me.
No, no, stopped. It froze when you were just about to
And
talk about Red Bull. Red Bull.
yeah, well, it's also a very powerful logo of truth. There is a bull, a Taurus, there is a blue, and there is a red. And there is something called In Capri geht die Sonne auf. It's a very old brand of a very shitty orange juice in a plastic bag, and it's called The Sun Rises in Capri. Yeah, the sun rises in Capricorn. Apri, actually, you know, there is this abra, which means to open, isn't it? You find it in the four seasons corner points, like Capricorn opens the first quarter, then comes April, opens the second quarter. Then we have Cancer, which you could say what used to be Scarabaeus in Egypt, it's the same thing. Scarab, we have open again. And Libra, Abra, is also the same thing. Just another little interesting detail.
Mm. Yeah. And what's the significance of the red and the blue?
The red and the blue, they are major colors in this creation, because before color gets visible in the it's, let's say, infrared, we can't see it, it's very long wave. And what happens is creation is a wave, the wave is within the torus field, and every atom is in essence an energetic torus field structure. See it as a wave or a particle, but there is only torus fields in this world. So we got to have a look at the torus field, because the dynamics in the torus field can explain anything in this creation. There's everything in this creation is within the torus field. So what happens is the torus field moves. There's all kinds of dynamics going on, spirals, vortexes, from up to down. You can also have down to ups, but basically they say the force is going down from the hyperboloid. That's this middle bit that looks like a sand clock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the force goes down and separates. So there is a disintegration happening. So the wave gets pulled. And what happens in the last visible part of the spectrum is a color red. And then it goes back up on the sides, like on an apple. And up here, it compresses its integration instead of disintegration. And this pressure causes blue light, which is a short wave. That's why we can take a vacuum. In this vacuum, we can put a little boat on, like a little kind of, we can make something move if we put a sail on it, because the short frequencies, like the dentist uses this short wave to harden your thing, isn't it? When he fixes your teeth, because that's what blue light is short, and red light is different, and they are the two spectrums. So you could compare it with your own torus on your body, the rib cage. Below it's red in the chakra, and above it's blue. When we look up to the sky, it's blue up there. Afterwards, it's something else. But these two colors, they like you see it on your water pipe, red, blue. There is electricity cables, red, blue. The police, red, blue. They are polarized, because they're kind of guarding the most far points we can get. So they play within, and their uniform color would usually be blue, generally saying. And then you have a lot of red blues, like Hollywood movies use it all the time, red blue.
And
It's
just, I mean, remember you were showing also about Pepsi Cola and
yeah,
NASA comes
Pepsi,
to mind.
yeah, NASA, or even Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. She has a red blue dress with white. And the seven dwarfs, the seven other colors, or the seven rainbow, or the seven, the seven, holy seven.
Yeah, yeah. Well, seven everywhere. Seven musical notes. Seven.
It's even in these stories, like talking about fairy tales. How you call the girl with the red cap gets eaten by the wolf?
Red Riding Hood.
Red. Yeah, she gets eaten by the wolf when the sun sets and it becomes red. There is the wolf in Libra, eats her, And next day, Orion, the hunter, gets her out again. Orion is in Taurus, near the sunrise. That's the hunter. So even in fairy tales, you find this stuff. Because anything that comes from, anything that has truth in it must come from there. Because that's how it goes. Anything that's not telling this story is telling a fake story. But they all use that story. You can see in Hollywood movies, if you're into it, you see it all over the place.
So how do
That's how
you
things
watch
are.
films now? How do you watch? If I
Yeah.
don't know, if you watch films, especially Hollywood films, what's your experience of it?
No, I not in particular, but I know that Hollywood movies carry a lot of subliminal truth and symbols. There is a lot of information that they don't bring in the news, they bring it in movies. Like Back to the Future, back then in the 80s, it's full of 9/11 stuff. There's many examples, many examples. So, I mean, we can you ignore that? I mean, I don't need to get negative about it, or I don't need to get fanatic about it, but it definitely causes me to want to know more and to find out if my existence here might be a bit more superficial than it's supposed to be within the cultural setting and stuff. And we also got to teach our children. You know, I tell my daughter, my nieces and whatever, I show them what I know, and they're children, they're quite open. It's funny to talk with them about it, because if you don't know anything, you might just easily get lured on some kind of track that doesn't get you anywhere, in the best case.
Yeah. How do you talk
I
to
mean,
children
I
about?
don't need,
How do you talk to children about introducing these kinds of ideas, and what's the significance that, how can you communicate that to a child? And what's their reaction?
well, I give them little hints, because if I start explaining stuff in depth, they wouldn't want to listen to it. I just give little hints, sometimes remind them, like when they're watching comics, I show them, you know, I find these symbols here because it's full of that stuff. And sometimes it's pretty evil, like Disney. Like Mickey, turn it on the mirror and it says wicked. And they are wicked. They are planting sexual or whatever stuff in our brains that is not right. And if they are not aware, it's gonna be in their subconscious, and one day it's gonna do something when it gets woken up by another event where they use the stuff. They know how to use that stuff. They know why they do it. So if we know what's happening, then there is not much danger in it. And the reaction is like they would take it playful and lightly. Like, I don't want to bring this with heaviness. You know, you can do it playfully. Because once you know the game, there is no need for this heaviness, because I know my place in creation, and creation is perfect. And this year is just, well, it's not forever, is it? So to me, it just makes real sense. And what I see it does to them, it opens up their horizon. So they start having thoughts and links, and they start coming up to me and say, I saw it there as well. Oh yeah, you know, and I think they're getting a sense for a broader understanding to what is actually happening to us, done by people that know exactly how we work. You know, they're really trying to hack us. Nouvelle Harari. I mean, the World Economic Forum, they are talking about this stuff openly, and they can hack us. Soon they're gonna see our hormones, our emotions, our feelings. We're already decoded by Facebook and internet. Like, I noticed that the AI put stuff on the screen for me that I was only thinking about. It's very obvious. So that's only the start. That's gonna go down further with people like Elon Musk, who come up with a Baphomet costume. a few weeks ago at Telemine, come with a Baphomet costume and make a pose like this. It's they can, the image that he tries to make of himself, I don't care. I just see through it, and I'm very careful with these things, because I got a refuge and a place of purity. It's the daimi, and it would also be like with Buddhism or so. And if you know what is right and what is clean because you were shown it, then you can also identify the other stuff. And this is going to be essential for us now and for the next generations. So
Mm.
we need to be aware and careful of these things, because the devil sneaks in. He's professional in that. He knows how to unwind, how wind around you, you know. And for me, it's very obvious somehow. They showed it in the Matrix in a nice way, actually. It's kind of what's going on.
Yeah. And I what I find it interesting, like when we spoke last time, the idea of, there's all this talk about, okay, we can talk about the devil and Lucifer and Satan, etc. But Satan as in Saturn, and like just understanding that we can't get rid of it. We can't get rid of like evil and dark and like, because actually it's just a part of creation and it has its own place and own, it serves a purpose. But if we are blind to things and we're not aware of what creation actually is, why we are here, and not just, oh, it's just some random and we just like happen to be here, and that the whole
What
point
they
of
want us
life.
to believe.
Exactly, and the whole point of life is, oh well, you have your education in whatever schools, and they're teaching syllabuses and whatever, they're going to teach us anything but the real things that we need in life, like how, anyway.
Well,
And then you go down, you get a job, and then you pay for all the bills, and just and you live for the weekend, and you get married, you have kids, you retire, and you've had a really nice life, and that might be okay for a lot of people, and that's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with wanting a simple life. I think ultimately we all do at the core of it. But what
yeah,
does that actually mean? Is that simple? You kind of look at, I think people are becoming more and more aware of, well, the prices, what's actually happening in the economic system, um, which that's probably a whole other conversation. But people, the purse strings, it's getting tight, and people are starting to see the bottom of the purse and going, wow, actually, my life is not simple. In order for me to have this apparently simple life, I have to work so much that you're no longer present to yourself. So then personally on my own journey, I look to ancestors, I look to other traditions, other more indigenous traditions, whether they're the keepers of the Amazon, in various different tribes there, whether the Aborigines and these ancient people that have just been completely marginalized, and their whole purpose has been taken away from them, and they're so connected to it. So what a violation. And the idea that you know, living in community, living in harmony with the land, growing our food. If we grow our food, we no longer need to buy it. It's there, it's abundant. We know how it's grown. We've put our energy into it and the energy of the land, and that, the power in that. And there's more and more people doing this. And then you realize, well, do I actually need to have that 9 to 5 job that allows me to pay for extortionate rent or mortgages, even that word mortgage? And so once we look at like, well, what is a simple life? And perhaps it isn't the life that they have thrust upon us in all these movies. And this is what you want to do to be happy. So that's where I see the power in really coming back to basics in whatever spiritual practice one might have. And I don't know about you, but I do see it happening more and more. And if I'm talking about this, anybody who has known me from, for a while, I was not a spiritual person. I went around saying, oh, I'm agnostic. I don't know. But yeah, I kind of think it's all just stories we tell ourselves. Well, it is stories. Everything is a story. Everything is the word. But there is deep, beautiful, profound, creative meaning. And it's kind of changed, it's turned my own life upside down, and has introduced me to, I wouldn't be sitting here, I wouldn't have met you, I wouldn't, so many things that have happened. And so anyway, to get back to the point of, okay, well, you've got Satan, you've got these whatever, however we want to believe it, is an actual entity. Is it energy? Is it the dark within? Is it just inside of us? Is it, whatever it is, but it's connected to Saturn, and Saturn's not going away. So we can't just be like, we just want the light, man. That's what I'm understanding anyway. At this point, it's like, well, we need to almost make peace and have acceptance and see Saturn, Satan, negativity, the shadow for what it is. What would you say to that?
Well, what comes up my mind is in the sign of Virgo, Saturn can rejoice. So he has a place where he can actually be a bit more easygoing. My daughter has her Saturn in Virgo, and I know exactly what that means because I am Virgo, her father. Saturn is the father, Joseph, father Seth. And there is always two sides to it. On the other hand, we totally need Saturn because he's the one who keeps pushing us to transformation and transcendence ultimately. And yeah, the devil as an entity, I think he's an entity. Um, I don't know exactly how it goes. I'm sure it can. I mean, the old stories are telling the story how the fall has happened and how there's different aspects of it. Like, what's his name? The German occultist, very famous guy, Rudolf Steiner.
Mm.
He explained there is an aspect called Ahriman and one Lucifer. Lucifer is the he came 5, 6, 7,000 years ago, he said, and he gave us a lot of knowledge and he elevated us, created civilizations and stuff. Then came Jesus, who put a kind of a moral cloak over this creation. And now we're in the times of Ahriman, which is the machine type devil, the hard rock metal devil, yeah, the technological devil. And that's how he put it. So you can just see different, yeah, aspects of it. And I'm sure they exist like they exist like in a way like entities. I'm sure that there is intelligence that thinks for itself, and but as you say, it seems to be part of this creation, and if anybody could remove it, then I guess Buddha would have done it by now, or Jesus Christ, or the masters, or whoever. But it seems like they come in to be a light in this darkness for us to go through this game and eventually get out of it. That's how I can. I
Yeah.
mean, just go with the circle. It says it all. There comes the time when the sun sets, darkness sets in. Then comes the moment of truth in Virgo. Then comes Scorpio, the one who betrays, where the lie is, and where there is a deep suffering somehow. And then you go down to absolute darkness, to the underworld, for you to rise again. And I guess that's happening in every fractal. So that's the circle that's going on.
Mm.
And the wheels of karma are turning in sickness and health. And I guess beyond it's nirvana, as they say. I'm sure Buddhists found that out
Mm.
scientifically.
And also the Vedic texts. I mean, it all starts to correlate. And then,
Exactly.
yeah, and then this idea of transformation. I mean, just recently, just being in Scorpio season, and actually for the first time properly in my life, paying a little bit more attention with less skepticism within myself to, okay, what does this mean? The moon is in Scorpio, we're in Scorpio season. Okay, I'm a Scorpio, but it affects everybody and it's an energy. And then kind of looking at it, why is it connected to the death card and tarot and all of these things? It's like, well, who decided all of this, that it all fits perfectly? Just
Yes,
a few things. It's like, surely if we just step back a little bit and have a little bit more, as if we're children looking at things for the first time and going, okay, I'm just going to observe. I don't have to be attached to anything. I don't have to have
exactly.
preconceived ideas, judgments, beliefs. I can be neutral and just observe and not get sucked into any energy, whether it's light or dark. And something that comes to mind is, so we've been talking about all planets and like and everything on the external, but macro, micro, as above, as below. Like we know that, you know, what is in the cosmos is also found in the atom. And that's, you know, physics or quantum physics, or, you know, however, you know, we want to talk about it, whether through physics or philosophy or religion or psychology. And when we talk about shadow work, we need the shadow. We absolutely need. That's where the lessons are. And it's that's one of the differences that I've understood with, like, you know, we talk about spiritual bypassing and people who do all the right things, you know, they're all spiritual and, like, you know, meditating and whatever it is. And it's great. If that's helping somebody, it's wonderful. But have you done that deeper work? Have you actually gone and look at yourself within with honesty and with and find the courage as a result of being honest with yourself and putting that mirror up, whether it's alone, which ultimately is you know, or in relationship, you know, in that spiritual journey that marriage and love is, and allowing us to see the negatives within us, embrace that, and then let it go and see the darkness transform into light. And so,
Mhm,
yeah, from this collective shadow, that perhaps this is what's been coming to a head in the last few years, which corresponds to the Vedic
mhm,
texts and the
mhm.
prophecies and, you know, the Hopi prophecies and all of that. But then what's happening on the inside is, I feel we're being called to heal everything inside,
Absolutely.
Mother Nature. And if we
Absolutely.
can look at it with this lens, then why should there be all this um, even debating uh, because somebody is a Christian or somebody is a Buddhist or some. And a friend of mine, so I recently published a song of mine that I wrote recently or received, I think.
Mhm.
That's a whole other topic. And it's called Lessons from Divinity. And a friend of mine said, have you ever thought about how close the word divinity is to divided? And I sat there for a minute and I thought, okay, yeah, that's true. It's the beginning. But on one level, I was like, but it's completely different. What has it got to do with it? And then I thought about it a bit more, and I thought, we are mere divisions of a one eternal consciousness, which is divine. And held in that division, if we can see the unity and that, yeah, we're separate right now through a certain lens. But in that division, if we can see the unity, then we become divine. I don't know if that makes sense. This has been the thought.
Totally. Yeah, the divinity has its source in unity, in this one principle, in this first principle. Um, yeah, and things mirror each other. Like in words, sometimes opposites are very close, like alive and even. I can't exactly say why, but there is it's a world of opposite. And I remember a German Daimi song where it just says it's all about learning what is duality. Sounds, it's only one word, duality, but it's such a endless teaching in duality, because, and I guess it's just a learning place we're in. And now we know, like people like you and me, I think we are able to navigate now in the right direction. And that's the mission, step by step,
Yeah. And it's really
each in
beautiful.
their own way.
It's really, it's the kind of thing that, you know, you just want to have like a fire, a campfire, a wood stove, and just sit around it and just feel the difference between that kind of light, that kind of heat, as opposed to I mean, it was electric lights or LED or like, and and
Mhm.
central heating, and just sit around a real fire and see how that evokes this more elemental and contemplative state where we can just explore and we don't have to, have all this clashing. That's what my personal hope for all of us is, where we can just come together and explore. And then each person will
Yes.
have whatever they take away from it, but with respect and love for the other. And that's my hope. So.
Yeah, just another line coming up from that song that I put a few lines under the last video. And it says, only with your power I can tolerate my brothers and sisters. So to be able to come together amidst our differences that seem to be really big these days, it's with having the source, being connected, in connecting to the source, that is our only hope. I can actually do what is necessary. And you can see that in the Daime in Brazil, even though they are just humans and they also have their conflicts and sometimes little fights or whatever, I personally, from my point of view, I can see that through their constant connection to the highest, that open the portal for them to receive information that we need for a better future. With this, we actually put the ecclesiastical and secular line back into tune. Right now, in the best case, we totally separate it, because as soon as we put it together, we're killing each other. But real truth, like in my example, it's the Santo Daime. There is many things on this planet, I think, but this is it. So it's so exciting, and actually it makes me so happy to know that the New Jerusalem is gonna come. It is gonna come. End of the story. So when the light goes on in Aries, it goes on. You know, it might take a while from the very dark to the actual rise of the sun. And I don't know where we're at, but I can actually deal with the adversities
Mm-hmm.
that I witness in this world, that actually sometimes can make me really sad or frustrated, or and with this connection that I try to keep up as good as possible, I'm actually, I can observe how I have a certain security on a higher spiritual level, and also material in this case, I think, as far as I can say it.
So, because we're coming to the end of our time together, if for somebody who doesn't know anything about syncretism, doesn't know anything about astrotheology, and is curious to explore, what advice or direction would you offer them?
Well, the best foremost thing that I discovered is the ultimate essence and foundation of anything that is true. Find out or start to practice how you can come into the moment, breathing, relaxing, feeling what's going on. I think I have to mention that before anything else, because actually in there lies everything we need, because everything else tends to be an illusion, because only now is real. But apart from that, if you want to tune into stuff, I mean, there is so much out there. Everybody can find his own things, like another thing you could say, if you want to make a good foundation, tune into the elements first, because if we want to talk about God, we need to agree first that we are made of the elements that connect us all. So for example, you can make a fire and look into that fire or candle. You can drink a glass of water every day and make sure you drink the last drop, remembering and intending to connect with the water in us and all its qualities, physical and non-physical. You can go outside and put your bare feet on the earth. That's also such a basic thing. And so you can connect in that way. You can also go and listen to Santos Bonacci, or get books about, there is so much out there. I guess one needs an intention and put this intention out there, and he will find what he wants. So if you're interested in anything, and this field is so big, how can I now say something more specific than trying to say something very fundamental? If you really want something, if you want to find something, be interested in something, put the intention out and nourish it, and it will come by itself.
Through a whole series.
And if you have any questions, or anybody wants more talks, then I'm always happy to talk about what I know.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to answer that question. I was, yeah, and it connects it completely to the idea of being in the now. So if we're in the now and we're present to ourselves and we know the intention we want to put out there, and then remaining present and conscious of the now, then we can start to observe what is coming our way and the lessons that
Exactly.
God is trying to go, can you please look here? Oh, they're not looking again. There they are in their mind. But if we can stop for a moment and start looking and paying attention, we have everything we need within. So
Exactly.
beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for
You too.
this
What a
amazing
pleasure.
journey. Yeah,
Actually,
really,
very happy.
really, really lovely. So, yeah. And who knows if we sit down again and explore, because this is an absolutely endless topic and really fascinating. And maybe one day it will be over a fire, and that will
Exactly.
bring out even more uh, inner wisdom. So, yeah.
I'm sure we will be presented with more clarity and insights into
Mm,
important stuff, actually.
yeah. Exciting times. Crazy times, but exciting times.
Absolutely. Yeah.